I'm here today with Ruby Axelson, which is a great pleasure. So hello Ruby, how are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you.
Good. Obviously here to discuss the concepts of self-development, self-management and future-proofing yourself. And I'm really keen to find out how Ruby's developed and self-managed herself in her education and career. And to find out, so perhaps some stories along the way, some things that have gone well and things that haven't gone so well. Also, what great advice she's been given, and perhaps what great advice she's given other people as well. And also with hindsight, which is always a wonderful thing, is there anything she would have done differently? And then to finish off with, really intrigued to find out about how Ruby sees the future of her profession and how it adapts and changes, and also with regards to her own career and keeping up and keeping relevant and keeping all the skills going. Not just the technical skills in terms of her legal expertise, but with regards to technology and socialising and social skills in communicating with all the different types of people that she does. So to kick start off with, give us a quick overview of your education and career to date. What have you been up to?
Okay, well, I did a degree in law from Sussex University, and then after that I did a master's in international law, which I loved and was very, very academically fulfilling. I then was an intern on the defence case of Ratko Mladic at the International Criminal Tribunal for the former Yugoslavia. I did that for 6 months, and then I got another internship with an organisation called Global Rights Compliance, and I did that for 6 months, or a bit less than 6 months. And then when I was there, I worked with my current boss, Wayne Jordash, who's a QC from the UK, and he offered me a role as his assistant for 6 months, which I obviously took, and it was a great 6 months. And while I was working with him, a case that he had been working on previously, the appeal came out and they ordered a retrial. So he then offered me a job on that retrial, again at the ICTY, the International Criminal Tribunal for the former Yugoslavia. So it went for a full retrial, much his shock. He had to do the whole trial again, but I just joined for the retrial, so it was all new for me. And I've worked there ever since. So I'm still a legal assistant on that case, and we're sort of finishing the evidence now, really, and then we are going to do the final trial brief, and then there'll be the judgment. I also continue my work with Global Rights Compliance, which Wayne also runs, and I'm a legal consultant there, so I do a lot of other projects with them as well. So I sort of have a dual role with Wayne, with the case, and also Global Rights Compliance, and Global Rights Compliance is sort of a legal organisation working in accountability and human rights for sort of international crimes.
Wow. So if I could sort of take you back a bit to your days in education, what was the appeal to go into the legal profession?
I think there was less of an appeal to go into the legal profession, and I think I've sort of always shied a little bit away from the legal profession. I still haven't actually qualified as a barrister yet, which is something that I kind of need to do, but I'm also doing the bar, it's all a bit, I don't know, I think it's a bit hierarchical for me. But what I have always wanted to do, and I think this is from when I was like very young, I always wanted to work in international human rights. I didn't really have the language to know what it was when I was younger, but sort of the idea of working in human rights and war and things like that. And then as I got older, I realized that there was this whole legal framework under which that sort of all comes, which is international criminal law, and so international humanitarian law. So that's sort of why I wanted to go into it, and why I chose my law degree. When I was doing my law degree, I mean, I wasn't particularly interested in any of the domestic law things that we studied. I quite liked EU law and I quite liked criminal law, but I was really waiting for my third year where I could do electives and choose human rights and international law. And then when I did my master's, I specialised in just international law. So that was really where I wanted to go from quite a young age. I just didn't really, I didn't know how to articulate it at that age. You don't know that there's this big international.
And with hindsight, has it been the right choice?
Yeah, I think with hindsight, I don't know what other job I could do. I think I'd probably be pretty rubbish at any other job in the world.
Well, no, you wouldn't, but you just wouldn't have the same passion.
Yeah, I think,
and you wouldn't be so successful at it.
Yeah, I think that's really important. It's really important to really care about what you're doing, and it's really the only thing that motivates me to do more. I would never be motivated to be a corporate lawyer, although I could probably earn quite a lot more money. I don't think I would get out of bed every day and do all of the extra stuff that you have to do to be successful.
But I always, and I say this to a lot of people, that is a great definition of success, is doing something you've got a passion for. I meet, so many people who just have a job. And they don't really, getting out of bed on a Monday and going to work, and they wish it was Monday, they wish it was Friday, and when they get to Friday, thank God it's Friday. I mean, that's a tough existence. So, obviously, during your studying, and now you've got the reality of doing this role, is there much difference in the expectation and the reality of, the transition through the education and through your studies to actually now performing your career?
Yeah, I think there is. I think when I was studying, it was so far away almost, and the people that were doing it were just, I felt like such a different world that I could ever be in, and that was very daunting, really, because you think of the United Nations and it's just so unrelated to your normal lives, and then so it's different, because once you get there, you realize that it's normal people working in it, and it becomes a lot less daunting. So I think that's probably how my one of the ways that my expectations are a bit different, to know that people are just normal working in that environment. But in terms of the work, I think it's different in the sense that I've realized how diverse it is, how many different things there are to do. There's not just one route into working in international law. There's a million different things that you can do. So it's more diverse in that sense. But just as much hard work as I thought it would be.
Gosh, yes. Which I know it's been a hell of a lot of hard work. So is there anything you wish you'd known at the start of your career?
I think if someone had just said, don't worry, in 5 years' time you will have a job, then I think I would have been so much more happy, because I think it was, it was a really, it's so daunting when you have sort of set a target to sort of go into international law. It is so far away from your normal life, and I spent a lot of time thinking, well, am I even going to make it? Like, it wasn't for me about making it to be the best international lawyer. It was literally, am I going to get a job in this? Like, is it realistic? So I think if I'd have just known that it would have caused a lot of less stress. I wish I'd known that. But I think I wish I'd had maybe a bit more confidence that it would happen, and so that I could have relaxed and enjoyed it a little bit more.
So on that journey, what's been the best advice you've been given by someone?
I think the best advice is probably to just take every opportunity and trust that if you take every opportunity, one of those opportunities will turn into something good. So for example, and this actually comes from my mum. So when I was an intern, and I have got, as you probably know, I will catastrophize things. So when I was an intern and I was working for free and I didn't feel like I was going to get a job, that was really hard time personally, because you think, well, I'm just never going to make it. I'm never going to get a job. I'm going to have to like stop this dream.
Yeah.
And mum would always say, just take every opportunity, and one of those opportunities will turn into something. And it did. And that's how, you know, every step of the way has always been, because, you know, because I started off as an intern, and then from that internship, Wayne offered me a 6 months job, and then from that, which I took, and then during that, you know, he offered me another longer term position, and so it's grown. And I wouldn't have got that if I hadn't have taken the opportunities, even when those opportunities weren't the easiest opportunities to take. You know, working for free was not particularly easy. Moving to Holland was not particularly easy, but building on all of these different things, I think, and taking the opportunity is how you sort of get success.
Yeah. And I dare say you've demonstrated a great work ethic as well along the line of that as well, which people that you work with must appreciate.
Yeah, I always say, because I have a lot of interns in my job now, and I think they sort of appreciate my view on it because I'm so close to their age.
Yeah.
You know, when Wayne, for example, gives them advice, it's great advice, obviously, because he's a top lawyer, and they obviously really appreciate it. But when I give them advice, it's almost, I'm so close to their age, it's more tangible. And I always say to them, it's really a mixture of taking all of the opportunities that are put in front of you and having trust that one of them will turn into something else, but also hard work. Like, hard work is so much more important than like natural intelligence.
Well, that's the same in so many different environments, and you know, especially the sporting world. You know, it's not always the most talented person that, you know, has the great success. It's the person that applies it and tries their hardest. And it's really interesting what you said about helping other interns, and we'll come back and talk about that, because I do a lot of sessions in local colleges and schools, you know, helping people prepare themselves for the working world, and you know, getting them to think about what careers they want to do. But they don't really want to listen to me. They want to listen to your generation. And I think that's so right. And I've been trying to encourage some younger adults to go back into their schools that they were at and say, look, I'm a living proof, because they don't want to hear it from a 50-year-old. They need to hear it from people that they can relate to so much easily, and sort of it becomes more tangible. And I think, yeah, perhaps there's more opportunities for you there to act more as a mentor for other people as well.
Yeah, I think having mentors is so important. Like, I know that I've got people, well, at first I've got Wayne who always helps me, but I've also got people that are sort of bridge the gap between me and Wayne and help mentor me to get to the next step. And I think that's really important. So I think it's really important that people my age and all levels of the career are always looking to the people coming up below them and sort of giving them a helping hand up, especially women. Helping come up, because I think someone said to me once that to be a successful woman in international law, you have to be twice as good as the successful man next to you, which I think is true. So helping women up as well is something that we try and do in the organisation I work with. And also my university actually just asked me to do a podcast about
Excellent.
sort of this, because they had to cancel all their career days. And one of the things that I thought was really interesting was when I was talking, they had asked me to talk about all the extra curriculum stuff that I did at university, because I think that there's a perception that when you're really successful, you've not really had much fun. But I was, and also, and especially when I was at university, I was so worried about all the stuff that I wasn't doing. I wasn't doing a mini pupillage. I wasn't doing all of this unpaid work, mainly because I was working in Waitrose. But I was so worried about all that stuff. So I said on this podcast, I was like, you know, like when I was your age, I didn't do any of the extra curriculum things that I was meant to do. Like, it's fine. Like, don't panic about it. So I think also having that like non-perfect advice is also good. You know, people that see that you don't have to be perfect to be successful.
But also, I think for a lot of organisations, they'd prefer you to have the Waitrose experience because it shows you've got a work ethic.
Yeah, and it's really interesting actually when I see interns. People that have worked in Waitrose or wherever it is, It really, to this day, I have skills that I learned in Waitrose.
Oh
But
yeah,
like, I'm never late because,
yeah,
and I'm in a job where I can be late because no one would
yeah,
sort of, you
yeah,
know, I have that freedom.
yeah,
But you have a work ethic that goes from working in a job like that since you were
yeah.
15. I worked at Waitrose, so yeah.
And there are so many people that do leave university that, okay, they've got quite a good degree and whatever, because they've got no work experience.
Yeah.
People don't want to take a gamble on them. And I don't think this has driven in enough, the whole concept of, doesn't matter what the experience is, if you've got a good story of why you had to do that and why you did it and how you've learned from that, I think, people, when they're employing you, certainly when I interview people, that's a good plus, rather than that they've, what's the word, been doing lots of jollies, doing this, that, and the other. I think the work ethic is very important. So, what bits so far have you really enjoyed the most? Obviously, you're doing something you've got a great passion for, you've got great beliefs, you've got great values towards it all. So, what have you really enjoyed most?
I think being on the case, I think being able to see an international case from the beginning, and I will see it to the end. We're not quite there yet. It's quite a long 4-year marathon. But I think having that experience of seeing it the whole way through is quite unique. People are often just pulled in for a little part of it. So to go the whole way through and see the whole process from start to end, I really value that experience. And I think
Yeah.
that's something that I'll always have on my CV, and will always be a real bonus to build on my CV.
Yes.
So,
Yeah. Wonderful. And the most challenging aspects?
how hard you have to work. Having the motivation to be at work at 2 o'clock in the morning, knowing that you're going to be there at 7 o'clock the next day. And it's not like that all the time, but when you've got a deadline, it can really get it can get like that.
Yeah.
There is long days, and there's missed events with your friends. There's, there was moving abroad. There was a lot of things that you have to sort of change your lifestyle to ensure that you're doing that. And also you have to be doing your own job, and you have to be doing that to the best of your ability, but also reading about what's going on so you're up to date, so that you have interesting things to say, because the case I'm working on is relevant to Yugoslavia, so I need to know that. I need to be doing my job really well, and that often involves late nights and early mornings and weekend work. But I also, to be relevant, I need to know about what's going on in Syria, what's going on in with the Rohingya. Like, you need to know all of this other stuff, and there's so much that you can read and so much that you can learn about. So you have to, come from a really hard week at work, and then also have the motivation to think, okay, well, it's a Sunday and I'm going to sort of read around the topic and keep learning. So that can sometimes be really hard when you want to be at the pub with your friends.
Yeah. And also, you have done quite a few interns without being paid.
Yeah. Oh, that was definitely the hardest aspect, or sort of period. Working for free. I mean, I was lucky because, mum and dad helped me, and I also had savings from working for years in Waitrose. I knew that I needed those savings, but it was still financially difficult. Like, I was not doing anything that my friends were doing because I was saving every single penny that I could. But also it was emotionally so tiring, because the first internship was fine. It's exciting. The second internship, I mean, I still enjoyed the work, but you're sort of like, okay, well, I've done this for a year now. You're also applying for jobs all the time, which takes up a lot of your time and energy, and you're not even getting replies. Like, you're not getting replies. You're not even getting an email to say, sorry, we're not accepting you. You're just not hearing anything. You're applying for other internships, which you're sort of getting offers, but you think, well, can I do another 6 months of unpaid, and will I be in a better position from doing 18 months of free work than I would be doing a year of free work? And so that was really emotionally, I found it emotionally quite stressful and like not a very nice period. I really enjoyed both of the internships. It wasn't the internships that I didn't enjoy, it was the self-confidence.
So what would you say that you've learned about Ruby? What have you really learned about yourself as a person during this part of your career?
I think how much I wanted to be an international lawyer. I think, I think that was what I learned, really. That I was pretty confident that I would be able to sustain quite a lot in order to do it in the end. So
to make it happen.
Yeah, I think that was what I learned. And I think I mean, I did think in quite a lot, like, oh, I just don't think this is going to happen. I'll have to find something else to do. But I just, however much I thought about that, I couldn't think of what that other thing would be. I just didn't know. Which I think is kind of, it makes, if you can't think of one other thing in the whole world that you want to do, probably means that you really want to do what you're trying to do.
And also, how often do you sit and reflect and think, do you know what, I've done bloody well here? Do you reflect on what you have done and how great it has been in terms of what you've gone through to get to where you've got to?
I think, I mean, I don't, not that often, but I think sometimes I will be just going to work and or things like this which make you think, and you think, oh wow, like I'm actually doing what I want to do. And I often get it actually when I'm sort of flying back and forth, because I think I've realized that sort of flying back and forth suits me quite well. My personality sort of going back and forth. Other people are like, how do you do it? And I'm like, oh, I quite enjoy it actually, you know, spending a few days in London and then a few days in Holland. But quite often when I'm doing that, I'm really like, wow, I'm really living the life of Riley here. Like I'm like really doing what I want to do. I've got it pretty good.
And does that give you a lot of resilience and confidence to look back and think, yeah, you know, it's been a tough journey getting here, but I've got here and I should be very proud of myself? You know, does that give you some good resilience and confidence in that?
Yeah, I think so. I think really my confidence in the last year, because I think I've always been quite unconfident in terms of work and in that sense. And I think in the last year, I've noticed that I'm sort of becoming to feel a little bit more settled, and also like I deserve to be where I am. I always, people used to ask me like, oh, how did you get your job? And I would always just say, oh, it was luck, like it was luck. And now I'm a bit like, it was luck because I was in the right place at the right time. But it was only
because you made that happen though.
Yeah. And I never really recognized that. I think I was quite not very confident. And now I think I'm sort of starting to be a little bit more confident, but also a little bit more relaxed and sort of feeling like, okay, like I'm here, it's fine, like breathe, like, you know, it's okay. And also, you know, when you do something that you really enjoy and you produce a bit of work that you're really proud of, that sort of, that feeling of when it's out there, when you've done it, when it's finished, when you've hit the deadline and you've done a bit of work that you're really proud of, that sort of makes you forget that 3 nights ago you were up at 4 a.m. crying your eyes out because you didn't think you were going to make the deadline. So you sort of have that, like, you forget that a little bit.
Okay, I mean, so that's brilliant. That's talked about, you know, how you've got to where you've got to, but now let's talk a little bit about the future. So thinking about your working environment and what you do and how you work, do you see that changing in the next few years at all? You know, I mean, will it develop and change more in terms of ways of working, technology, etc., etc.?
Yeah, well, do you mean in terms of like how we work, or me personally?
Well, how you work as a profession first, and then then the next question will be, you know, how will Ruby, you know, continue to future-proof herself so she is of value and relevance?
I think it's definitely changing, and with technology, of course, it completely changes the way that wars and the collection of evidence is sort of undertaken. I mean, with the case that I'm working on was obviously in the 90s, so that's before everyone had a phone, and so the investigations that they conducted back in the 90s to build these cases were a lot different. They had professional investigators. They were doing sort of what you would describe as more typical investigations. Whereas now there's a fact that there is more minutes of footage of the Syrian war on YouTube than the Syrian war has actually been going on. I think that's so it just shows that anyone, whenever there is any sort of atrocity or during a war or anything, everyone's on their phone filming it, and that's all evidence. So the way that evidence is being collected, and also how much we know about wars, you know, if there's an atrocity happens in Yemen, we'll know about it that day because it will be all over our news, and there'll be videos of it, and everyone will see it. So that's changed a lot, and one of the ways that we're sort of in our company trying to work with that is we have created an app, because one of the things that this sort of this trend has seen is people that aren't professional investigators collecting evidence while they're there, because they have more access to the crime scenes, and they're on their phone, so they're collecting evidence, and this evidence is then being given at a later date, might be used in trials, and so the whole system has sort of changed in that way. But obviously, for that evidence to be useful, it needs to be collected to standards that will be acceptable in an international criminal trial. So one of the ways we've tried to respond to this is to create an app, which is for sort of lower capacity documenters who may not have the professional training of the International Criminal Court, for example, who are collecting evidence to try and ensure that they are collecting it to best practice standards, and so that evidence can be collected, stored, saved, and handled appropriately, so that when there is opportunities for criminal trials or any other form of accountability, that evidence can be used. So that's one of the ways that we're trying to respond to that, and I think that we'll only see that increasing as we sort of go on. We don't know what other technology will be used in the future and how that will affect criminal trials, especially trials that are sort of dealing with mass atrocities.
Yeah, wow. And therefore, as a person in this happening, is there anything you feel that you need to continue to work on to keep yourself up to date and relevant and value to?
Yeah, I think I'm not the most technical of people. So I think learning continuously how technology does affect sort of trials and how it will affect the collection of evidence. That's something constantly that I definitely don't know enough about, and is also changing. So you have to continuously learn it, and it's also very novel. You know, it's very novel that sort of videos that have been posted on social media can now be used as evidence, and so everyone's sort of learning how it's actually going to play out in criminal trials, and how that evidence is going to be deemed admissible. So everyone's sort of continuously learning, and on a much more personal level, I feel like I'm still very much at the beginning of my career, and I need to have a lot more experience sort of doing it practically, and sort of seeing how things work in practice, because I think that's something that you can always develop.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, well, thank you. That's been very impressive, actually. I've really enjoyed that. What I particularly like is, your sort of determination to make it to where you've got to, in sort of taking those opportunities, and that resilience that you've demonstrated, especially, you know, how many people can really look back and say they would have worked for that period of time without getting paid. I'm sitting here thinking, not sure I could do that. And I think that does mean a lot. And I think, yeah, you know, giving your advice to the interns, I think that's so important. And if you know, do the stuff with your university, I think that's so important. And you talked a lot about, yeah, the importance of mentors. And I think, you know, I'm always talking about networking, but I mean having people that you can trust and go and have those conversations with. And I love the passion and the energy you have and the hard work that you've given for it. And I think that's really important to all of us, that, you know, it does sometimes need some blooming hard work to get there. You know, there's all these things on the internet, you know, follow these 6 steps to easy success. Yeah, you know, the only person who's going to benefit out of that is the person you're giving the money to. But, and also about how in tune you are with new ways of working and learning and updating and your experience and you know, and appreciating, you know, you don't know it all, but you've got to keep acting as a sponge and absorbing all these things around us. So thank you very much for that. That's really appreciated. And it is, you know, in a line of series of podcasts and YouTube videos of people discussing their careers, and hope everyone that's watched this and listens to this has enjoyed that. So Ruby, thank you very much for that, and I look forward to speaking to you soon.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.